Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, and as we continue our 5-part series on 5 things couples are likely to differ, today we will look at item number 4, which is, for the most part, couples have a higher tendency to differ regarding roles within the relationship. What are roles? Marital roles are simply defined as attitudes relating to the expectations from each individual in the relationship. Roles are those spaces that are filled within a relationship by an individual in an already determined manner. The roles, for the most part, in essence, are determined before the couple gets married. And the roles are determined by the husband and the wife based on their home environment. So when they come together, the two becoming one, in each mind, separate from the other, they have already predetermined what the role, if it's the husband has already determined what the role of his wife will be. If it's the wife, she has already determined the role of her husband. Now, how do couples differ about those roles? The Leave It to Beaver marriage in most communities really never existed. While it is true that the majority of women haven't always worked outside the home, it is a myth that stay-at-home mothers simply get out of bed, then come to breakfast with makeup, dressed up in clothing, preparing for bridge or going to tea, and then spending the rest of their day in the beauty salon or in the backyard talking across the fence to the next stay-at-home mother. That's the Leave It to Beaver image of the role of the woman in the home. According to Lewis and Hendricks in the book Rockin' the Roles, most women are working, and above and beyond the work environment, what Lewis and Hendricks also discovered, that most women spend at least 15 hours more per week doing work in the home than the husband. And that is in addition to working a full-time job outside the home. I fully understand that it could be the opposite. There are men who spend 15 to 20 hours above and beyond their daily work environment in the work of the home, and the female, I understand, may possibly not spend as much time working in the home as the male. But more times than not, it is the female who has the responsibility and the expectation of not only working outside the home, but also being the dominant care provider, nurturer, maid, cook, nurse for the home. Also, Lewis and Hendricks found that an overwhelming 80% of household chores are done by women in the home. They also concluded that when the husband does take on home chores, they are typically the type of chores that basically could be done by any child in the home. So in essence, what Lewis and Hendricks are saying is, for the most part, the chores that most men do in the home are really chores that anybody could do. Sociologist Dr. Arlie Hochschild has labeled the home roles, as far as it pertains to the wife, as her second shift or her second job. So when couples differ about the roles in the homes, sometimes, especially the wives, are differing because they see themselves with the expectation of having a second shift all by herself, or they see themselves as being in a second job all by themselves. Men who were supportive of their wives working and who considered themselves as transitional rather than traditional husbands helped even less than those men who felt the woman's role was in the home. In other words, these transitional husbands who say, sure, I believe my wife has the right to work. Sure, I expect my wife to work. Sure, my wife can go hang out with the girls. Sure, my wife can do this, and sure, my wife can do that. Those are the transitional husbands. But what was discovered is that those transitional husbands who say the wives can do and go and work and all of that, those transitional husbands do less in the home than the traditional husband. What if you have a no-role marriage? Have you heard of the 50-50 relationship? A family history that says dividing everything in half is the way to go. Family history that says 50% of what's yours remains yours, most often is also saying 100% of what the other spouse has is mine also. Thus, this 50-50 relationship verbally really nets down to the person who is saying 50% and I control yours has 100%. And the other person is simply left with 50%, and out of their 50%, they must take care of paying the utilities, they must take care of buying food, they must take care of buying clothing and other necessary items in the home. The 50-50 marriage does not work. And most people who push for the 50-50 marriage will find themselves differing over the roles and the responsibilities within the home. The role of roles in marriage. Why do you need roles in a marriage? And why do sometimes couples differ about those roles? Most would readily agree that when everyone does what is right in their own sight, or when the right hand has no idea in a marriage what the left hand is doing, it must lead to confusion, frustration, and contention among the spouses. Roles often create differences in marriage because they are understood incorrectly. If the role is seen as rank rather than responsibility, it's going to create chaos, frustration, and contention. If role is seen as an opportunity for selfishness rather than sacrifice, it's going to create that chaos, frustration, and contention. If the role is seen as dominance and control rather than duty within the covenant, then it's going to create chaos, frustration, and contention. Those are results that must follow if the understanding of roles is too skewed. Roles really require a godly perspective. In the book of Ephesians chapter 5, verses 21 through 25, be subject one to the other in the reverence of Christ. Let the wives be subject to their husbands as unto the Lord. The husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church. He himself is the Savior of the body. Yes, as the church is subject to Christ, so let the wives be in their husbands in everything. And then, husbands, love your wives, as Christ loved the church. How did he love the church? He gave himself. Christ's role was to support, to provide, to encourage, to be the model of sacrifice. And the wife's role to the church is to support that and to encourage the head to keep on doing what the head is supposed to do. I'll see you back in class again next time. Don't be late and don't skip class.